What's up everybody, another beautiful day in the Dragon Isles, and today I'll be going over one of the new raid builds we'll be using in Aberus, the Storm build. Now the Storm build replaces the old and oh so outdated Physical Gamba build, since it now focuses more on the elemental / lightning side of life, and since the build is called Storm, naturally it revolves around Storm Strike, which is physical? And do keep in mind that this is a pure single target build with no AoE outside of Chain Lightning, which is not enough. If there's any AoE, this is not the build for it. There's also been a lot of updates to our talents and abilities going into 10.1, and I have videos out covering all of our changes, how they impact us, as well as how our new tier set bonus works. So I recommend checking those out if you want to know about that. Now in essence, this build pretty much works like the old Fizz Gamba, but like I said, there's been a lot of updates to our talents that makes this build work a lot better. Now a big one being that deeply rooted elements now have an ever increasing proc chance. This is not reflected in the tooltip, but trust me, it's there. Now with that out of the way, let's go over the build itself. First of all, we get all the Wind Fury talents, so Forceful and Unruly Winds, increasing our Wind Fury damage by a ton, and Doom Winds, which massively increases our chance to proc Wind Fury from our Wind Fury proccing abilities. And for this build, that's Storm Strike, Ice Strike, and Sunder, but almost always Storm Strike. So this gives us a huge upswing in Maelstrom, as well as Wind Fury damage. And then we also get Storm's Wrath, for even more Wind Fury and Stormbringer procs.
I want my Storm Strike to be extra windy.
Then we get improved Raging and Overflowing Maelstrom, increasing our Maelstrom spender damage, and we can have and spend up to 10 stacks of Maelstrom rather than 5. So our spenders slap harder and gives us some wiggle room in our rotation. Mostly so that we can refresh Flame Shock with Lava Lash, since that slaps harder than just Flame Shocking. And Ice Strikes, which is an additional way to proc Wind Fury and as a filler when we can't press Storm Strike or have enough Maelstrom to spend. Then you get Wind Fury Totems, so all the lovely melee players in your raid stops crying.
Why you have to be mad?
Jokes aside though, it does buff us as well, so it's not only for them, but you also spec into it so you can reach Storm Flurry. And on that note, we will be getting Storm Flurry, Storm Blast, 2 points in Elemental Assault, and a single lonely point in Legacy of the Frost Witch. Now this build is shockingly very Storm Strike centered, so Storm Flurry gives a 25% chance to slap again for 40% of its normal damage. This just increases Storm Strike value, more Wind Fury procs and Maelstrom generation. Then we have Storm Blast. Stormbringer procs gives your next Storm Strike 25% additional damage as nature damage, so this proc scales with our mastery since it's nature damage, and with more gear and the new tier set bonuses, this adds a considerable amount of damage per Stormbringer proc. See? Storm Strike isn't only physical. There's some nature in there. Sometimes. Elemental Assault at 2 points increases Storm Strike damage by 20%, and Storm Strike always generates 1 Maelstrom. We just gotta make that shimmering shiny button that is Storm Strike slap at its fullest potential. And just in case we aren't able to actually press Storm Strike, well that's where Legacy of the Frost Witch comes into play. Spending 10 Maelstrom resets Storm Strike, so we can slap again. So now we have a reason for all that pesky Maelstrom we keep generating. Get rid of it so you can Storm Strike some more. We also get 5% increased physical damage for 5 seconds following it. Now the reason we don't get 2 points is that a lot of our damage isn't actually physical anymore, so getting 25% increased physical damage instead of 5 isn't actually that big. Now where have I heard that before? But wait. There's more. To really enable Storm Strike to shine as the centerpiece it is, we get deeply rooted elements with the updated Static Accumulation and Thorim's Invocation. So anytime you Storm Strike, you have an ever-increasing chance to proc Ascendance. Static Accumulation gives us 20% chance to refund Maelstrom spent on Chain Lightning and Lightning Bolt. And during Ascendance procs, we generate 2 Maelstrom every second. Thorim's Invocation increases Chain Lightning and Lightning Bolt damage by 20% at all time. And during Ascendance, Wind Strike, which replaces Storm Strike, spends up to 5 Maelstrom on either Chain Lightning or Lightning Bolt, whichever you cast last. Now to tie all of this together, Sundering, which can proc Wind Fury, but more importantly it also activates our new tier bonuses. When you get them, it's gonna be soon, right? First week, right? You get 24% Mastery, 20% Fist Fire damage for 15 seconds, and 2 Chain Lightnings that deal 100% increased damage and refunds 50% of Maelstrom spent. So Sundering becomes a big pump cooldown all of a sudden. Then we also get elemental weapons for that sweet 10% fire, frost, and nature damage. And lastly, we get feral spirit with witch doctor's ancestry, but no capstone, so no alpha wolf or elemental spirit. Since we don't need AoE, we don't want alpha wolfies, and we want physical wolfies all the time. And witch doctor's ancestry increases our maelstrom generation, but more importantly, maelstrom generated reduces feral spirit cooldown by 2 seconds per maelstrom. And this works even if you overcap on maelstrom, and we generate a ton of maelstrom constantly due to all of these storm strike spam we do, because anytime you storm strike, there's a lot of magic happening behind the scenes. Storm strike itself might not be a major contributor to our overall damage, but every storm strike and proc wind fury generates maelstrom, which lowers feral spirit cooldown, and each stormbringer reset increases storm strike damage even more via storm blast, and most importantly, each storm strike has a chance to proc ascendancy, and when it does, each storm strike fires off lightning bolts. All glory to the storm strike. So how does this play? Use Storm Strike. And if you're able to Storm Strike after Storm Striking, use Storm Strike. At least that accounts for the vast majority of the rotation, but it does get a little bit trickier than that. At least if you want to min-max with the new tier bonus. So going down the prio order. Without the new tier bonus, it goes a little something like this. So you want a Feral Spirit, always on cooldown, Doom Winds as well, then Storm Strike / Wind Strike if they're available, Wind Fury Totem if it's not up, Elemental Blast if you're at 5 or more Maelstrom, Lightning Bolt if you're at 5 or more Maelstrom, and you can't Elemental Blast. Because remember that we now have a 20% chance to refund all Maelstrom spent on Lightning Bolt and Chain Lightning, so there's no need to wait for 10 stacks. It's better to just send them away if you can't Storm Strike or Elemental Blast. Then you want to Ice Strike if Doom Winds is active, Sundering if Doom Winds is active, and Flame Shock if there is no Flame Shock up. Then after that, you kind of just fill with Lava Lash, Sundering, Ice Strike, and Frost Shock, and refresh Flame Shock, and Wind Fury Totem if there's nothing else available. Again, this might sound intimidating, but it's really not for this build. More often than not, you're just chain spamming Storm Strike, and when it doesn't reset, you spend Maelstrom to reset it. And if that Storm Strike doesn't reset and you have no Maelstrom, well then you press Lava Lash, Ice Strike, etc. But mostly, it's just the Storm Striking part and spending Maelstrom. And the fact that Lightning Bolt has a 20% chance to refund all Maelstrom just makes the rotation feel incredible. So much Feral Spirit CDR, so many Lightning Bolts. However, to complicate this a teensy bit, once you've acquired the 2 and 4 set bonus from our new tier set, our rotation changes a bit. Now, since this tier bonus is tied around Sundering, naturally Sundering moves way up the priority list. Like it's way up in there. So with the set bonus, you want to pop Feral Spirits into Doom Winds, into Sundering, proccing the 2 and 4 set bonus, if you have them. And with the 4 set bonus, you get 2 100% damage increased Chain Lightnings that refunds 50% of Maelstrom spent. And these refunds counts as Maelstrom gained, so it reduces Feral Spirit cooldown, which is why we will actually use those on single target. And that is also what complicates things a little bit, since first of all, we only have so many globals. And you still want to Storm Strike for fame and fortune, but in between the flurry of Storm Strikes, you still want to use up 1 charge of Elemental Blast, 2 Chain Lightnings, and after that, a single Lightning Bolt, so that if or when Ascendance procs, it fires off Lightning Bolts instead of Chain Lightning. So suddenly it becomes a tad more to juggle following a Sundering, and we have a lot of buttons competing for attention. Press me! Ooh, press me! Oh, look at me, I'm glowing over here! And you can't smash all of them at the same time, so it might take a bit of practice to get down properly. But outside of these Sundering windows, it's just back to slapping Storm Strike without having to care about Chain Lightnings and things like that. Now, as far as opener goes, with the tier set, you of course want to make sure Wind Fury Totem is down. I usually pop it pre-pull and then Totemic Projection it next to the boss. Pew pew. Then you want to Flame Shock as you're running towards the boss, Feral Spirits, Doom Winds into Sundering, and Storm Strike away. Elemental Blast if you can't Storm Strike and you have 2 charges of Elemental Blast. If you only have 1 charge, then you want to fire off an empowered Chain Lightning instead. And then it's back to slamming Storm Strike. Speaking of Totemic Projection, I can highly recommend macroing it into Storm Strike. The macro I use looks like this, because this is not on the global cooldown, so you can project while smashing Storm Strike. In this way, you will almost always have your Wind Fury Totem with you without having to think about it. You can outrange it though, but yeah, more often than not, Wind Fury Totem will be with you
through it all.
Lastly, I really recommend the add-on Hekili. It is a rotation helper add-on, and it shows you what you should be pressing next, and it is very accurate. So it's incredibly helpful for players who are new to Enhancement to help put the rotation priority into play, and to learn how it works. I do use it to this day. I might not be looking at it constantly, but it's almost always in the corner of my eye, and it helps me free up some brain space. Now lastly, as far as secondary stats goes, because everyone asks anyways, you want haste over mastery and then sim yourself. The Storm build just tends to want haste over mastery, but you can't go wrong with both, so haste mastery. And yeah, that's pretty much it for this build guide for the single target Storm build, the Storm Strikiest. Now let me know what y'all think of these guides. Any info you feel is missing, let me know in the comments. And if you really want to dig deep into everything Enhancement Shaman, I greatly recommend reading Word Up's Wowhead or Icy Vein Bible for Enhancement, as most of this is based off that, and he goes a lot more in-depth into, well, everything Enhancement. And if there's ever any change, he updates it very quick. And also just a huge shout out to Leylana and Fabio from the Shaman Discord for helping me out with the guide. Thank you very much. And yeah, don't forget the usual stuff. Comment, like, subscribe, and make sure to hit that notification bell. There are tons of guides coming out for 10.1. Different build guides for M+, Raid, Elementalist, Storm build, ring it! And if you want to help support my work, do check out my Patreon. As a patron, you get access to the Stankie Discord. You can also get shoutouts in videos, coaching, among other things. And there's tons of helpful people if you ever need help with anything raiding related. I also stream progression and testing on Twitch, Stankie Gaming. Feel free to hop on by and spam me with questions. I love answering them. Why are you playing Enchantment Shaman? And yeah, thank you all for watching, and I will see you next time.